All of history could easily be categorized into two pieces. The first piece, what men plan. The second piece, how it all falls apart. I think for the last of our creed discussions, well, actually I don't really have much in the way of a choice for who I'm discussing last. I'm discussing, of course, the visionaries of the vision virtue. Of course, I'm also going to discuss the lost creeds because I feel they are important to understanding the imbued condition. Yes, I call it a condition in this case because I would not describe the hermits and the waywards as how to put it, blessed individuals, at least not in any traditional sense of the term. But of course, I'm getting ahead of myself tonight. Let us start with the visionaries, the poster child, and to many imbued the only members of the, vision virtue. Now, I make it no secret that I consider them to be the most interesting in some ways of the creeds. Sure, the mercy ones are nice for the house, the more long-term potential, and of course, the zeal, of course, is really good at fixing immediate problems, but the vision virtue is the only, hunter creed really concerned with why. Why are we doing this? Who imbued us? What's the purpose of all this? This may sound like questions everyone asks, but not all imbued do. Many are content simply to be, I was chosen to hunt monsters, so I'm going to go do it. Or I'm choosing to heal monsters. A common quote I've seen to help to describe them is simple. One is that zeal virtue hunters tend to be, we kill the monsters. Mercy creed hunters tend to be, we're going to save the monsters. And virtue hunters ask, what are the monsters? They're asking pretty much all the big questions. Why is this happening? What's our purpose? But they're more than just questioning everything because they feel like questioning things. Oh no, they have a much grander purpose, at least in their head. They are the long-term thinking of the hunter group. They think about what this all means. What does it mean to kill one vampire if a million more are just going to take their place because you didn't kill the head one? This fundamentally suggests more long-term planning. Individuals more inclined for that long-term thought than immediate gratification. They, in many ways, may prove to be invaluable to saving the world if that is your mission. After all, it's nice and good to kill some low-ranking vampires and just do a bunch of mess, but to really fix the world is going to require not just someone who can kill a monster, but someone who can find where the monster's source is and then rebuild after the aftermath. Of course, they are not without powers, and the powers are perhaps some of the most unique. Now, some of them might sound boring, but do not underestimate them. One, they have a limited form of precognition, or basically future sight, which allows them to, see the future. Though often unclear, there is no stated time on this ability, although the further in the future it gets, the harder it is to visualize, to the point of basically becoming useless. However, they also have the ability to see into the past, or delve, as they call it. With this powerful ability, it allows them to see the past of anything, usually in their immediate area, of course. However, this has no set range. Though it gets harder to do, there's nothing stopping them from saying, what was this place like 1,000,000 years ago, or at least 1,000, as all reports have seen such a thing, although such reports have often come with consequences. And, as one of the last major glimpses into power, they can see the weaknesses of monsters, which allows them to discern certain types. After all, you see an undead corpse, that's one thing, but are we dealing with a zombie or a vampire? Very important detail. They also have the ability to restore people's limbs, injuries, that kind of thing. Now you might think, wait a minute, doesn't that sound like it should belong to one of the mercy creeds? Well, it is a bit of overlap, and that's not lost on them. However, it's majorly different in the fact that it restores the limb or body part area to a perfect state of it, or at least a more perfect version, free of scars, blemishes, and weaknesses. Well, not weaknesses, but less with them. This gives credit to their idea of a perfect reality, a perfect form that they want to strive for, at least in society. And it's hard to deny there's proof in that. Of course, long-term thinking is nice, but if the monster in your face immediately, you probably need to, deal with that a bit quicker. However, they are not the only members of the, vision virtue, at least not in theory. Now, granted, they're the only ones going to do any good, in my opinion. But I will cover the other two, just for the sake of thoroughness. The hermits. The hermits are perhaps the least dangerous of the two lost creeds. Simply put, you know how imbued often get visions and flashes from the messengers about what to do or how to do this? Yeah, well, it varies in strength and intensity and how often it happens from hunter to hunter. You know, we're expecting this kind of thing. However, the hermits are imbued with this knowledge constantly. Every second, they're getting messages from the messenger. Every second, every moment, they're getting more and more and more constant information. They can't even discern what is or is not real. That's a lot. And it gets worse for them, as that imbuing, that constant stream of knowledge from messengers only gets worse after they gain contact with more hunters. The more hunters they're around, the more imbued, the worse it gets. And that is a big problem for a long-term organization, because they have knowledge of future events. Well, not future events, but rather knowledge of what the messengers want. Perhaps valuable information for solving and saving the world. But of course, they can't give it to you easily, because they're both a little bit mad and completely broken whenever you get too close to them. It's a bit of an issue for them. Yeah, it's not surprising some have called them Malkavians. You don't know what an Malkavian is? I thought I covered this a few times ago, whatever. But the second one, and by far the most dangerous, quite possibly to everyone involved, and I mean that hunter, monster, and mortal alike, is the Waywards. Okay, so you know how the Avengers are all about destroy monsters? Yeah, take that a million times and then remove any humanity that the Avenger had. These are the Waywards. They are insane as far as I can talk about them. They have very little redeeming qualities. They want to kill every single monster without repercussion. And sure, we could go into the moral nuances of killing a sentient being, and one may be able to argue that some of them don't deserve death, some of them just need rehabilitation or crime, or even have done absolutely nothing wrong. These guys don't care. Monsters exist, they need to die. And literally the Waywards are more than happy to kill all of humanity if they believe that will kill all the monsters, because at least they'll be dead. That's insane as far as I'm concerned. And those people only come from individuals with great hatred in their hearts. And quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, they might be a bigger threat than, the rest of the monsters in some cases. As if they blow the lid off of the masquerade and the other supernatural litanies that keep us from, watching society burn around us, then we have a problem. Because they will do it without tact. They will do it without calm. They are pure dedication. If they have to burn an orphanage down to kill one monster, they're more than happy to do it. If they have to use humans as bait, they're more than happy to do it. If they have to work with horrible, evil humans just to kill one monster whose worst crime was stealing a bag of chips at the Go Mart 2 weeks ago, then they will do it. They are, quite frankly, insane. I understand that a lot, but that needs to be reinforced. And quite frankly, they serve as a dark mirror as what the imbued could become and what they had become in the past. At least if one is willing to believe the legends. But yes, what does all this mean? What does virtue of, vision mean? And why have so many fallen on it? Well, I could give my own reasons, but I suspect that fundamentally, it's easier to assume, easier to plan around immediate threats. Okay, there's a vampire in the closet, what do we do? That's easy, or at least relatively easy to plan. The longer you plan out, the harder it gets. Okay, it's easy to plan what to do with a vampire in your closet. What if your girlfriend's a vampire? Or your boss? What if the leader of your nation is a vampire? What do you do if everyone who you've counted on secretly turned out to be a werewolf? Or all skin puppeted by ghosts? What do you do then? What gets you... Okay, that sounds bad. But what if you know that in exactly 3.7 hours, somewhere on the other side of the world, an asteroid is going to calm down and turn people into dinosaurs? What do you do about that? You see, the longer you have to plan out, the more details you have to factor in, it gets harder. And that's why I believe so many of the Vision Virtue have had two lost creeds, the Hermits and the Waywards, because it's hard to plan for the future. And I think the second reason is that in many ways, the imbued are searching for utopia. They're seeking a better world, whatever that means. They want a world of peace and prosperity for the human race, and sometimes the other supernaturals. They are fighting for utopia in their own ways. But the problem is, it's really easy to say, oh, we kill this one bad person, then we'll be closer to utopia. That's easy. We do this one good thing, we'll be closer to utopia. When you start planning long term, you start trying to build a roadmap, you have to make more and more controversial decisions. Sure, you might say it's perfectly willing to kill a mass murderer who just keeps mass murdering, but is it okay to kill a killer? Just one guy who just killed one person? What if they only severely maimed a person? What if they only did this or that? At what point is jail time worthy for stealing? What is all of these things? They might sound definitive in your head, but the more nuanced it gets, the harder it gets. And when one wants to build utopia, there are no half measures. Possibility of seeing past, of trying to build a utopia. One seeches far too much for messengers from high power without their own initiative. The other one just burns and destroys all sinners without remorse. But yes, that will be the end of our discussion for the vision virtues. Now, I think you should find this particularly relatable, and I want you to heed my message, as I've seen more than a few questionable behaviors from you. Tread carefully in these dark nights, because beyond what's more important about what you have at your hand, sometimes it's more important where you're going with that gun. Yeah? Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're gonna become a subscriber. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.